Hello and welcome back to the Single Today podcast. This is episode 24. And so, of course, it is dedicated to Ken Griffey Jr., the best number 24 of all time. And it's called New eBook, parentheses, Your Singleness Story, because I have a new ebook and it is called Your Singleness Story. It is a guide to help you process the pain, rejection, and heartbreak that has made you who you are. And it is completely free, available on my website, ryanwekenman.com. So you can go download that right now. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts about it. There's been a bunch of people who have already read it and sent in their thoughts and their takeaways and how it kept them up to 2 a.m. because they were working through it. And so thanks a lot for that and all of that. And that just makes me so happy. And so to all of you, thank you for reading the book. And if you'd like to read it, you can get it on my website. In this episode, I want to talk about the story behind the story. I want to tell you the story about how I came up with this idea and why I wrote it and why I'm so excited about it. Because I don't know about you, but that's always in the back of my mind. Like when I hear a song, I'm always thinking, I wonder what the artist was going through when they wrote that song. When I read a book, I'm always thinking, I wonder what the author, what was the battle like and why did they create this product for us? And so I want to do a little behind the book episode. It just sounds like fun. And so here's the story. About 6-7 weeks ago, I was in Laguna Beach, California, one of my favorite places on this planet. I always just feel more creative when I'm there. And I woke up on like day 3 and I had a thought that just seemingly came out of nowhere. It was just like clear as day. And by the way, I've learned to listen to those types of moments, especially when I just feel like I'm in a good place spiritually and I've have a lot of silence and a lot of space for the Holy Spirit to speak to me. When those thoughts kind of come out of nowhere, but there's something different about them, I've learned over the years just to listen because it's typically God trying to get my attention about something. And so I wake up with a thought that there's really 3 ways to think about time. Now, I'm not an expert about time. I'm not a philosopher. I'm sure there are lots of ways to think about time, and I'm sure lots of people have lots of notes on this. But from a very basic level, 3 ways to think about time that actually help a lot, especially when it comes to navigating being single. The first way is that time is linear. So if you had a piece of paper and you put a dot on that piece of paper and that dot represented this moment right here, and then you drew a line to the right with an arrow from here, from this moment on, we are moving forward and time is moving with us. It's going to be linear in one direction. And that's true, right? Like we have calendars for that reason. Like today is, as I'm recording this, May 5th. Tomorrow will be May 6th and then May 7th. And then when we get to December 31st, we'll move on to 2026 and on we will go. And so this way of thinking about time makes a lot of sense. And it's helpful when it comes to being single, because we all have a lot of stuff from our past, a lot of shame from our past, a lot of regret from our past. Maybe you went through a breakup, whatever. And when you're thinking about time as being linear, as just moving forward, it makes it really easy to just move on, right? That was yesterday. That was the past. Let's move forward. There's biblical truth to this. I think about Philippians 3:13, where Paul writes, here's the one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, I move forward. I press on toward what is ahead. And so when we think about time as linear, the first way, it's good because it helps us forget about the past. The problem is, if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat the past. And so that takes us to the second way of thinking about time, which is that time is cyclical. That really, as we go around the sun every year, also our lives are just one giant circle. And we might try to change, but ultimately we're not going to be able to, because of our wounds from the past, because of our shame from the past, because of mistakes that we have made in the past, because of the way that we were raised, I was raised this way, and so it's just always going to be this way. All of that type of thinking, I call, and again, this is just me putting my own terms to this stuff, but that's all any of this is, right? I call that cyclical. Time is cyclical. Now, there are some advantages to that and some truth to that. I think it was Mark Twain who said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And there's truth to that, right? Like every year does kind of feel the same. And every month does kind of feel the same, and every day can kind of start to feel the same, in that the stuff that happened in our past really does affect us today. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I remember reading a study once about how many thoughts we have throughout a given day. And then it was something along the lines of like 90% of those thoughts are recycled from the day before. And so we're only thinking a few new thoughts every day. Most of them are the thoughts that we were thinking yesterday. And those thoughts are the thoughts we were thinking the day before. There is some truth to the second way of thinking about time, that time is cyclical. Now, the advantage to this is somebody who thinks this way is really honest about the way that the past does affect them, and really good at like doing the work to go back and understand how they got here. The disadvantage is if you just think it's cyclical, then like you're completely missing the gospel, right? That today doesn't have to be like it was yesterday. If you just think like, well, I can try my best, but ultimately I'm just going to stay stuck on this loop on repeat, well, then we're missing it. And so this book is about a third way of thinking about time that connects and combines the cyclical and the linear. And I call it an ascending spiral, that as we go from this point in time, we are moving forward, just like the calendar is telling us. And at the same time, there is a spiral to it. Again, Mark Twain, it may not repeat, but it does rhyme. That there are there is something to the fact that like we keep going around in a circle. But the idea is, if we do the work, we don't have to stay stuck in the same place, but rather we can keep moving forward. And so that is like the intro to this book. Ended up being the intro to this book because I woke up and that was the thought that crossed my mind. Like, yeah, there's kind of like three ways to think about this. And when it comes to being single, like, my goodness, we have to be able to hold the tension between both. Both options 1 and 2 aren't gonna help us thrive and live an abundant life while being single today, because option 1 is going to be ignorant of our past mistakes and woundings and baggage and all of that. And then we're just going to keep bringing all of that, carrying all of that into any new relationship that we might get into, right? You know, like the family trudging through the airport carrying way too much stuff, way too much bags. That's what we're going to look like into every new relationship. So it can't be that way. But if it's just option 2, then like, my goodness, there is no hope to be found there. And so this book is my best attempt to help us embrace option 3. And as I sat there on the beach that morning, I thought, you know what? That's not like a big book. That's not like I want to spend the next 2 years of my life crafting this like masterpiece that becomes my next book. But it's also not like a small thought. That's like a really important thing. And so as I was like kind of sitting there, I thought, what if there's like a third option here? What if I could create an ebook and write it out in like 70 pages, and then call up my friend Johnny Shinnick, who's the best designer in the game. Shout out to Johnny, and have him put it together into, you know, like an ebook form. And then what if I just gave it away for free to people? Because I think that would be a fun way to get this information into people's hands like quickly. You know what I mean? Because like the book world, the publishing world, I love it. I love being a part of it, but it moves very slow, and it's like several year process. And I just felt like, man, there are single people who need this information now. So for this specific message, I'm going to turn this into an ebook, and I did, and now it's available, and people are reading it. And every time I get an email about it, I just get so happy. It like gives me so much life to hear, because here's what ended up coming out is I started the book with those 3 ways to think about time, and then I thought, so what we need to do if we're going to move forward while also being very honest about how history does repeat itself, then really the work looks like going back to the past and taking 15 minutes to talk about every different element of our past. And 15 minutes is just a starting point, right? I'm hoping that this book launches you into much more than that. But if I can guide people to help them actually like sort through the stuff in their past, then they will realize two things. One, that there are patterns here, and that we all, especially as single people, have to become aware of our patterns, because our married friends, let's be honest, they have somebody else in their corner pointing out their patterns to them, probably in an annoying way at times. We don't necessarily have that. And so we have to be more intentional about doing this work ourselves. But I realize if we can help point out some of those patterns, then we can realize that we can actually move forward. Like, that rejection from your past 5 years ago doesn't define who you are today. And that, like, shame that you're still carrying from 10 years ago, like, you don't have to carry that into your next relationship or into your next time of being single or whatever it is. Like, you can actually learn to heal and lay those things down. And so what I realized, the imagery is, it's kind of like treasure. If your past is, I was on the beach at the time, so I was just thinking about, actually, this is a funny story. I was on the beach and I was on a run, and there was a man with these like giant headphones on, and he had one of those metal detectors. It was like early in the morning, and he was walking on the beach with his metal detector in hand, searching for, like, if somebody dropped, a diamond ring, or I don't know, that's probably an extreme version, but people drop things in the sand all the time. So there's all this like buried treasure. They're literally like pirates searching for buried treasure, which is awesome. And I will probably be that man decades from now. But I ran past him, and I thought that's kind of like a really good picture of what I want this book to do. I want this book to help be your guide as you go searching for buried treasure in the sand that is your past. Because treasure is the right word for it, even though it's not fun to be like, let's talk about that time you were rejected. There's a ton of treasure waiting to be found in there, because that rejection is actually an opportunity. It's like a doorway into the deeper parts of your soul, where you go, oh, and I do kind of like find some of my identity in that. And I do kind of put way more value than I should in what people think of me, right? And it like opens the door to all of these good conversations. And so this book is us being like that man. Shout out to whoever that guy was with his headphones and his metal detector on the beach. We're going back to the past, and we're going to mine it and search for the buried treasure. And I thought, that's really good. And then as I was running, I thought, so what is that buried treasure? And I thought, well, rejection has got to be the place where it starts, right? Like, everybody has been rejected in some way. Even if it wasn't romantic, like you asked somebody on a date and they said no. Like, maybe you tried to get a job and you got rejected from the job, or you had a dream and it didn't pan out. Like, there's rejection is part of life, right? It's like something you have to like really learn how to get good at rejection. And especially when it comes to being single, man, that type of rejection just hits a little different, right? Like, you go on a date with somebody and you really want a second date, but they don't feel the same way. Well, it's rejection. And that rejection hurts, and that rejection makes you overthink, and it makes you spiral. And what we typically do is just push it down, right? Bury it in the sand and try to forget that it's there. And there's all sorts of ways that we've gotten really creative about how to push it down and to keep it down there, and to numb, and to stay away from the pain. But what if we took some time to actually write out those stories of that time that person said no to you, or that person rejected you? And so I thought, well, that's where it needs to start. And so let's start it there. And then I moved to shame, and thought, like, my goodness, the shame that we still carry around from whether it was a mistake or just an uncomfortable situation, or like you said words And you know how this goes. Like, as soon as they came out of your mouth, you wish that you could take them back. You didn't really mean them. You just said them because you were reacting, but you can't take them back. They heard them. And now you feel shame. You're carrying around shame for what you said or whatever it is. I've found that it's incredibly helpful to sit down and write those out. So I wrote a chapter about shame and how there's a difference between guilt and shame. There's a difference between conviction, healthy conviction, and shame. That healthy conviction that is telling you to get better, and is spurring you on to step into the person you want to be. That helps keep the ascending spiral moving forward. But if it's just shame, man, that just keeps you stuck. Keeps you stuck in a cycle of shame. And so the book helps you take some time to work through that shame. And then there's this bitterness chapter where I was like, man, I need to tell this story about. Well, I'm not going to tell that story. It's in the book. I'm gonna make you read it in the book. Not make you read. Invite you to read it in the book. But man, bitterness keeps us stuck in a cycle, doesn't it? It keeps you from moving forward. But when you can learn, I know it's not fair, and I know bitterness feels good, but it's actually killing us. And so when we can learn to confront it, and when we can learn that the people that we are bitter towards are also just broken people who made their own mistakes, and we can start to forgive, it turns the cyclical nature of time into an ascending spiral of moving forward. And then I thought we should also talk about attraction. Like I should help single people look back in their past and just recognize the type of person you're drawn to. Because there's a pattern to it, right? And the more that you understand the pattern, the more information you're going to have for moving forward. And by the way, some of those patterns you are unhealthy, and the goal is that as you write it out, you start to go like, oh yeah, so it like never works out when I follow that feeling. And so let's just be really honest about where that feeling comes from. And maybe you end up talking to a friend or talking to a therapist about that. Like, hey, I tend to always be attracted to this type of person, and it always ends up just not going well for me. Where is that coming from? But then on the positive side of it, like there's a reason why certain qualities are attractive to you, why certain people are attractive to you. And that's just fun information to like glean and to know and to understand, especially if marriage is something that you are pursuing and trying to pursue in a healthy way. Well, then you should know like the type of person that you are looking for. And so I wrote a whole section about that in the book. And then at this point in the run, I was like, this is turning into like a whole long book. And so I'm going to have to land the plane at some point. So I just ended up writing 2 more on loneliness and closure. And that's where the book ends. And so I really, really love how it turned out. It is the way that it is like short chapter, and then it guides you through like coming up with, for rejection, okay, come up with 3 times that you were rejected. And then there's pages for you to journal. And the goal is, the prompt is, set 3 alarms 5 minutes apart and spend 5 minutes talking about every detail you can remember from all 3 of those rejections. And I know that doesn't sound like fun, but there's a ton of treasure buried in the sand, in the beach that is your past. And if you can take some time to take those treasure chests out and to just with no judgment towards yourself, just look at them and understand what happened and understand why you think it happened and all of that, then you can realize that your past is actually full of helpful treasure that's going to turn you into, and has turned you into, the person that you are today. Because today, you're single today, and you have a whole past, you have a history, and those events have, for better and for worse, helped transform you into the person that you are today. And if you can just learn to get really honest about them, then the pain from the past turn into treasure that you're carrying with you as you step into this next season, whether that's you being single or you getting into a relationship or whatever it is. But that stuff from the past is just really, really helpful. And yeah, I'm tired of people not doing the work to dig it out and to understand what's back there, because it really does help you as you move forward. And so that's the why behind it, the story behind it. By the end of that run, I was like, well, I got to do this. And so then I did, and I love how it turned out. And again, I love that people have already been reading it and interacting with it. And I would love for you to read it and do the work, and let me know what you think when you get to the end of it. And so, as always, I appreciate you all coming along for the Single Today journey, and enjoy the new free ebook, Your Singleness Story.